Okay, so let's start in then on worksheet 3A today. And what this unit is going to be about is solving linear equations, okay, with one step or multi-steps. So we'll see if you have done this before or not. Some of it might be review for some of you. Others of you, it may be brand new. So we're going to do the first one together here. And notice it says no calculators. So let's do our best to try to use mental math to complete these calculations. So when we're solving an equation, what that means is we need to get our variable alone. So on this first example, we need to get x alone. So to get x alone, that means I have to get rid of the what?
The 14.
Oh, I don't know how you did that either.
Me neither. I don't know what's happening.
Perfect. Okay. The 14, exactly. So it's saying minus 14. So to undo that, we have to use the opposite operation. What's the opposite of subtracting 14?
Adding 14.
Adding 14. So we are going to add 14. Now notice where I added it. We have an equal sign. I'm going to put a little imaginary dotted line. If I add 14 to that left side, I also have to add it to the right side. So I'm also going to add 14 to the right. Make sure we are writing. Now what happens on that left-hand side is those 14s cancel, and all that's left is x. We have our equals, and 32 plus 14, 2 plus 4 is 6, 3 plus 1 is 4. So I get x equals 46. Now, we don't want to miss all this humble jumble over here. Check. We should get 100% on these assignments as long as you check. So what does check mean to do? It means take what you got as your answer and substitute it into the original equation. So that original equation was x minus 14 equals 32. Now I'm going to take what I got, which was 46, and substitute it in for x. Simplify that left-hand side. What is 46 minus 14? And don't just say like, yep, it's my answer. Double check, right? 6 minus 4 is 2, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So I get 32, and I bring down the 32. So is this a true statement? Does 32 equal 32?
Yep.
Yes, it does. So I can go back and circle my answer because I know it is correct. If I had gotten 30 equals 32, what does that mean?
Nope.
Yeah, no good. Either double check your check or go back to your original calculations because you got the wrong answer. Okay? All right, let's go to number 2. Again, we're trying to get that variable alone. This time, there's 2 different things on the left of that equal sign. There's a 2/3 and there's a 2. What do I get rid of first?
The 2/3.
2/3.
Well, yeah, wouldn't it be 2/3 because you're multiplying it by x, then you divide?
Okay, so
I thought it was 2.
what's that?
Wouldn't it be 2?
It is actually the 2. And so let's talk about this. When we are solving an equation, we're undoing the operations. So what that means is we're going to go in reverse of order of operations. So last week and the previous week, we were simplifying, combining like terms. So we were following order of operations. This time, we're undoing the operations, so we go in the reverse. So what that means is, remember, addition and subtraction are usually last. We're going to do that first. So we're going to get rid of this minus 2. How do I get rid of minus 2? What's the opposite?
Add 2.
Right. So we'll add 2 to both sides. What's left on the left-hand side?
2/3.
2/3. x, right? Don't forget about the x. The 2's cancel, and that equals 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay. Now only the 2/3 is left. So now we get rid of that. What operation is really happening here? What is this saying? 2/3 plus x? What is this really saying?
Multiplication.
Multiplication, exactly. So how do I undo multiplication? Division, I hear. Yes. All right, well, guess what? We have to divide a fraction. How do I divide fractions?
Common denominators.
Close. That's adding and subtracting. You need it then. How do I divide fractions?
Someone else can get this one. I'm not very good at this.
I appreciate your participation, Gabe. So to divide fractions, Aleshka is saying we have to actually multiply. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
By the, Jocelyn is telling us, she's showing with her hands that we have to flip. So the two of them have this correct. What we have to do is we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little note over here. To divide, and you can jot this down, to divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. And the reciprocal is the flip. So I'm going to multiply. I'm just going to use a different color so people can clearly see what I'm doing. I'm going to multiply not by 2/3, but by 3/2. And if I do that to the left side, I have to do it to the right side. Okay, what happens on the left-hand side? The whole point of doing that was to cancel out those fractions. So I'm simply left with x. How do I multiply the right side?
6 times 3 and then 6 times 2? Or do you put 6/1?
Bingo. Make sure to put 6/1. Whenever you have a whole number, put it over 1. And then we just go right across. So 6 times 3 is 18, and 1 times 2 is 2. Should I leave my answer like that? No.
Oh, because you can simplify it.
Right, we can simplify. If you can't simplify, you can leave it, but we can. This is really saying 18 divided by 2, which is 9. Anyone have any questions so far? All right, let's do the check. So remember the original problem was 2/3 x minus 2 equals 4. Let's plug in our answer of 9. So that will be 2/3 times 9 minus 2 equals 4. Okay, so first I substituted it in. Now let's calculate. Now we're actually going to follow order of operations because we are calculating. So just like before with the 6, what should I do with this 9? 9/1.
1.
Yep. And we multiply right across. So 2 times 9 is
18, and then 3
18.
times 1 is 3.
Good. So we have 18/3, and then still the minus 2 equals 4.
Wouldn't you need to divide 18 by 3, though?
Next we will. Yep, I'm just going slow, step by step. So we substituted in what I got for x. Now I multiplied, and now we will simplify. All right, guys, coming back together. So we have 18/3 now, which is what? As Gabe said, we have to divide.
6.
6. So now that gives me 6 minus 2. And then lastly, we ask ourselves, what's 6 minus 2?
4.
So did I come out with a true statement?
Yeah.
Woohoo. So x equals 9. I can go back and circle that is my solution. Okay, you guys try 3 and 4 right now. Go ahead, try 3 and 4. Don't go past that, okay? If you did 3 and 4, then just hang tight for a minute. But try those, and then we'll go through them. All right, let's come back together now and check these 2 problems out. Anyone want to share what they got for example 3? Well, how about someone besides Gabe? Aleshka. Yeah, just tell us. 10 she had. Anyone else get 10? Put your hand up if you did. I see a couple hands. That looks good. All right. And good news, if your hand was up, that's right. So let's go through it. First thing is to subtract 7 from both sides. Right? We're undoing, so we do the opposite, what's least attached to the variable. So now I get 5x equals 50. Now to get x alone, it was multiplying, so I divide. And 50 divided by 5 is 10. We can do our check by substituting 10 in for x into the original equation. And simplify. That would be 50. And 50 plus 7 is 57. Hooray. Good job. All right. Who wants to tell us what they got for number 4? Anyone at home that we haven't heard from? Victoria, I see your hand.
I got 12.
12. Did anyone else get 12? I see a thumbs up in the class and a couple hands at home, and you guys are correct. Very good. So let's look at what we have to do. Here's the x. The 4 is not as closely attached, right? We're undoing our order of operations. So I get rid of the addition first. So I'm going to subtract 4 to both sides. This leaves us with that x over 2, and 10 minus 4 is 6. Max, I'm going to chime into you because I know you had a question. Do you know now what you would do? How would I get x alone? What operation is currently happening, Max?
Multiply.
That's what we will do because it's saying x divided by 2. So to undo dividing, we will multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on the left-hand side, which means to multiply by 2 on the right-hand side. Now we undid that operation of the 2, so just x is left, and 6 times 2 is 12. We'll do our check. It's saying plug in 12 for x, and then simplify. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 plus 4 is 10, so I get 10 equals 10. Yay. Any questions? So recall, when you see fractions, it's like a type of division. And remember, then if you have to divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, I'm going to ask you all to skip the next page completely right now. Those are all practice ones just like we did. And go down to the last page, which is a word problem situation. Okay, so where it says number 11. We're going to do this together. So we're going to read the scenario. We're going to make sure to show our work, answering complete sentences. So it says, Carla has been offered a babysitting job at her neighbor's house. She will be paid $9 an hour. How much money will Carla make if she works for 3 hours?
I know.
Go ahead.
$27.
And how did you do that?
Well, I know that 9 times 3 is 27.
Exactly. So let's show our work, right? 9 times 3 is 27. And then in a complete sentence, she will make $27. Now it says write an algebraic expression that represents the money earned. Let H represent the number of hours. So my variable is H this time. Somebody else, tell us, what will the expression be? And
So H would be 3, right?
so in the last problem, H was 3. Now we're just going to leave H as H.
So it'll be like 9
Exactly. Alishka is saying 9 and then the H. But what operation is that? That's really saying 9 times
Multi-
H. So you can just write it as 9H, and we know that means multiplication. If you put a little dot, that's okay too. If you use parentheses, that's okay. So that's very similar to like the work you had on your test. All right, here's what's different from our test. Now we're going to actually have equations. So it says Carla would like to buy a bicycle that costs $108. Write an equation that you could use to determine the amount of hours she needs to work. Let H represent the number of hours. So let's recall, an equation has a what in it?
Equal sign.
Equal sign, exactly. So I'm going to take the expression I had, which is 9H, but what do we want it to equal to this time for this problem? Right, Jocelyn in class said 108. And that's exactly right. Right? 9H, we said, tells us the total amount of money. 108 represents money. So now question 14 says, solve that equation to see how many hours she must work. So I'm just going to rewrite that equation. 9H equals 108. And what do I do to solve it? What operation?
Division.
Yes. And 108 divided by 9 gives me 12.
12.
So she will need to work for, what does the 12 mean? $12?
Hours.
Right. So that's why we're always writing sentences so that we understand what our numbers mean. Any questions? Okay, let's look at 15. 15 says Annabella's Sweets is selling jars of cookie for $35 each to raise money for cancer research. They would like to raise $1,680 or $1,680. Write an equation you would use to determine how many jars of cookies you would need and then solve. So the first thing we need to do is define our variable. Before they said, let H be hours. This time around, we have X. What are we looking for? What's the question asking me to find? Determine what?
How many jars of cookies?
Right. How many jars of cookies? So X is going to represent the number of jars of cookies. Don't just say cookies. Don't just say jars. We want to be specific, right? If I just say jars, first off, jars of what? Second off, are you talking about how large the jars are? How many cookies are in it? No, we're talking specifically about the number of jars. All right, let's hear from a different voice. Let's come up with an equation to figure out how many jars we would need. Eventually. I've heard from you, though. You're good. You got your participation for the day. I like it. How about somebody at home?
You would have to divide 1680 by 30.
So, Jordan, is that you talking? I just can't see on it right now.
Yeah.
So you are right of what you're going to have to do, but let's first come up with the equation. So remember, an equation has an equal sign. So I know that each jar of cookies is $35. So what my equation is going to be is that 35 times the number of jars I have, which is X, will equal 1,680. So
I have a question.
yes,
If I wrote it as 1,680 divided by 35 equals X, is that okay too?
that is an equation and that's fine. But our goal is to write it the way I have it because we're going to be, when we have a single step equation like this one, what you did, Gabe, is fine. But as you saw up above in some of our practice examples, we had ones with multi-step and then you can't do that. That wouldn't work. So that's why we want to get in the habit of writing it the way I have it. Okay, so once you have that, go ahead and solve it.
I solved it.
Good. Just giving everybody a moment. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Oh, Lauren. Tonight's homework packet, I don't know if you already did that to prepare, but if you didn't do it, you don't have to do it. If you want to, you can, but it was to prepare for the test. The other homework is starting to watch, oh no. So in class, you'll just go over any questions we had from that 3132 worksheet we'll go over, and then you can start watching like the videos. So bring earphones. Okay. All right. What did we get? Louder? 48. All righty. I hear that among most people, and that is correct, right? We're going to undo this by dividing, like many of you said. So X equals 48. And what does that mean? That means that
I'll need to sell 48 jars of cookies.
exactly. Okay. Any questions? What Gabe asked before, and it's also like what Jordan had said, of how he wrote his equation. Like I said, it's not wrong, but when we have multi-steps, that way is not going to work. So that's why I'm really encouraging you guys to have it so that your X isn't completely alone yet. Any questions? Okay, so what I'm going to have you guys do, and you can start this now and we'll finish it after lunch, is go back to the page we didn't do, and there's a bunch of solving equations. Notice it asks you to check your work too. So we'll do the first one together. To get X alone, it's saying X plus. So to undo that, we subtract and make sure you're showing the work from both sides, right? Show that minus 11 twice. So then X equals 15. Then please show your check. If you like to do your check in a different color, feel free to use a different color. But I take that 15 and I plug it in for X from that original equation. I ask myself, what's 15 plus 11? It's 26. And does 26 equal 26? Hooray. Okay, so that is what you're doing on that page. The bell's going to ring in about 2 minutes for lunch, so work until then, and then we will come back together at around 11:50, 11:55 after lunch. Any questions?